Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Dev Marketer channel. Continuing on our series today, we are going to be working with the login form for our advanced CMS. I kind of showed you kind of the goal that I want to achieve here on the screen. This is what we're going to be working on today. Basically the front end CSS and HTML for our login page. So we're not going to get it too much into anything like advanced with Laravel, but we got to get this stuff done before we can really work with Laravel. We got to get the front end stuff done, and this is a necessary part. Now we can't use the default Laravel login form just because the default Laravel login form uses Bootstrap and we're using Bulma, so we're going to design it from scratch. I did have like a super fancy one I was working on trying to get designed up, but I ended up just deciding to go simple for now, and I may add that advanced one down the road, but it was slowing me down working on a really cool, like super like advanced login page that looked super cool. And I realized that, you know, getting done is better than perfect. So I can come back later and add whatever HTML and CSS I want to make the page look even more amazing. But this is good enough for now, so we can get going and move on with the series, and I can get this website up, the bane of my existence. So let's go ahead and we're going to dive in. We're going to program something that's going to look more or less like this today. Currently this is what our page looks like, but that's what I was trying to achieve, what you saw on screen. You may notice I don't have my camera on today. The reason for that is because my USB hub just up and broke. I don't know what happened. It was working one day. I woke up the next morning, came into my office, and nothing worked anymore. The USB hub that I use doesn't work, and I don't have enough USB ports to run everything because I run on a Mac, and for some reason Apple thinks that you only need like 2 USB ports to survive. So I have to make do with the 2 USB ports since I don't have my hub. Another hub is coming on Amazon, so in a few days we'll be back to having a camera view. So anyway, let's dive into the code. Let's get this going, and let's get this project working. Now, for those of you guys that are just interested in the Laravel stuff, just skip to the next video. This video is only going to have HTML and CSS. I just want to warn you up front so you're not, watching the whole video and getting upset when that's, what it comes to. So what we're going to do here is picking up on our project. We are just going to be working on these login and register pages. So I've got the login page as we left it in the last video. We basically don't need any of this stuff. We had just added some of this as filler. So what we're going to do now is we're going to basically make that background gray. We're going to add a card in the middle. We're going to center it, and then we're going to add our form fields. So this is the code that actually came with Laravel by default. This is all the Bootstrap stuff. It's commented out right here, but I kept it in the file, and we'll probably delete it at the end of this video. But it's just going to remind me in case I forgot any portion of the this. It's going to remind me basically to add it all. So let's go ahead and get rid of the code we had here and just start from scratch. So what we're going to do to get our background to be gray, we can actually adjust that in our variables. So if we go to our Sass variables file, we can, up here we have our body BG. This actually is for Bootstrap. For Bulma, it uses a variable called body background. So let's go ahead and change that, and we're gonna change this to white smoke. That's what I like to have for the background. We don't need any of these borders. Let's get rid of all those variables. I'm gonna come through and clean these up down the road too, because I don't think we need any of these either. I think a lot of these variables, these are all Bootstrap variables, but I need to verify that before I go around deleting stuff. So I'll do that later. Okay, so that should be good. Let's save this, and we need to run our command here, npm run watch, to get this running. And then as soon as this runs, then we can go and refresh. We should have a gray background. Pretty basic stuff, nothing fancy. Okay, so now refresh. There we go. We got our gray background. Now let's go ahead and make our card. We don't need our variables file anymore. We don't need helpers. We don't need app. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do a columns. And then inside of columns, let's make one column. And then inside of column, let's make a card. And then inside of card, we can make card content. And this is where we're going to have our field, all of our fields. So now actually we could just do h1 title and say login, and that'll tell the user to log in. Now let's go ahead and make our column sizing correct. So up for our column, let's just do, again, this is just Bulma grid stuff, but we're going to do is 1/3. So I want it to be 1/3 width, and then is offset 1/3. So we want it 1/3 offset on the left, 1/3 on the right, 1/3 in the middle is going to be the actual card. That should be good enough for now. And then, yeah, I think that'll work. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. There we go. Looks good. So let's go ahead and move it down. It's let's add a helper. We've got margin top 100. Those little helpers we created in the last video. That should pull it down just like that. Now let's go ahead and add all of our fields. So underneath here, let's go ahead and add a field, and then we're going to add a label with a class of label, and it's going to be for the email field. Let's say email address. Then let's make our field. So we're going to make our control field, then we're going to make our input, type of text, give it a name of email, an ID of email just to match our label for up here, and then let's give it a placeholder of like name at example.com, and that should be it for now, just to get going. Okay, great. So now we got that. Then let's go ahead, we'll copy this. Just add another one down here, another field. This is going to be for our password. Just make sure those match. We don't need a placeholder for password. And then let's make sure we change the type to password so we get those dots instead of the actual text. And that should be good for now. Then after that, we're going to want our remember me checkbox, right? So to do that, let's go ahead and we're going to use our Buify. So let's do B checkbox. Oops, checkbox like that. Let's give it the, let's just say remember me like that. We want to give it a name as well of remember. That will match. That's what Laravel's looking for when it receives the form, is a checkbox named remember. And then after that, we just need a button. That's going to be our submit button, right? So we'll do button with a class of button and a class of is success. We could do is primary maybe. Is primary, and then is outlined. Like that. And then we're going to say log in. There we go. Let's take a look at this. Refresh. Okay, something went horribly wrong. What did we do wrong? Oh, you know what we did wrong is we just need to give inputs have both of these inputs here need to have a class added to them of input. And so, yeah, so with that, they should give them the styling they need. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, now let's go ahead. Let's fix this up a little bit. So let's give this button a class of is full width. Just to make it a full width button, let's give it a margin top of, I don't know, 30. And then same here. Let's go ahead and give this, well, yeah, let's give this a class of margin top 20. There we go. Okay, now the reason I use Buify is so I get this pretty text box, the checkbox, instead of the default the default one that like Mac or Windows or whatever Linux has. So this gives us one, so it's consistent look across everything. And then we've got our login. This is looking pretty good if you ask me. I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add our forgot my password. Oh, let's wrap this all in a form. Make sure it's going to the right place. So inside of our card content, let's just wrap all of this inside the card content. Hold on. I like to make comments, end of card content. So then everything inside of here is the form. So let's wrap this in a form. The action is going to be login, and then the method will be post. And then what else do we need? That should be everything. Maybe a role form, just for screen readers. And then after that, let's do CSRF field. And I think we're good. Okay, so now it should actually submit the form. So we will get errors if we submit it, but now it should submit it to the correct place as a post request, so that's good. And yeah, that's basically everything we need for, oh, we do need the forgot my password. So after card content, or after the form, but before card content, let's go ahead and make our, oh no, we want it outside the card. So let's do it after the card content. let's go ahead and make our field. So we'll just do like an H5. Well, no, we'll just do an anchor tag. Let's do an H5. Give it a class of has text centered. And then inside of there, let's do an anchor tag that will link to password.request, I believe it is. And then let's see, give this a class of is muted. And we haven't made this class yet. We'll have to make it in a second. I like to have a class called is muted, which is just like a light gray. So instead of being the default like gray text, it's like a muted gray, which is like a lighter gray. I think that'll be good. Let's just do that. We need to make this is muted class before anything works. So let's come down to our helpers maybe, and we'll just do is muted. Just how like the reason I did that is because like you already have like is primary, is success, is danger. So I just like to have is muted. In fact, you might want to add this to our overrides up here because we're actually overriding we're not really overriding, but it's kind of similar. So I'm actually going to add it to the top with text because these are our text overrides. We'll add is muted. And this is pretty basic. We're just going to add position, and we'll do gray light. This is just a Bulma variable. Nothing crazy. There we go. Oh, I don't think we ever actually added it. Okay, so now let's come down here and take a look at it. Yeah, we never actually added a value for it. Forgot your password, question mark. And everything else should be good. Okay, it's inside the card content. What we wanted to actually do is add this one layer deep, because this is the actual card. There we go. Now it's outside the card. There we go. That's what we wanted. Now let's go through and actually add some margin top 20 again. There we go. As we hover over it, let's make it a little darker. So back in our overrides, let's just do so if it's an anchor tag and it's muted, then let's just go through and we'll just do gray as the color. Okay, so it'll just, as you hover over it, it'll go from gray light to just normal gray. So just like that. That looks good. Perfect. Okay, that's basically it. And then this should go to password.request. If we click it, sure enough, it goes there. Now we haven't styled this yet, but that's for another day. Okay, so now we got all of that. The only thing really we need to finish this up is when a user submits a form and it goes to Laravel for validation, it comes back. What we want to do is we want it to have all the old data. So you can see down here in the other forms, what we do is we actually check to see if there's errors so we can display it a little differently. That's what we want to do as well. And then also you can see how it adds like the old value here of email. So let's go ahead and just add that real quick. Nothing crazy. Now we don't need to do that for password. We don't want to automatically fill in the password, but we do want to do it for remember. Now it gets tricky with remember because we can't actually do that here because this is a checkbox that's handled by view. So we actually would need to bring in a view object in order to make that happen. So we'll have to modify some view to get that to work. Now we could actually do something similar here with view. If we wanted to get fancy, we might come back and do the fancy stuff later. Okay, so now let's just get a little farther ahead. So now here with label, let's go through and let's add this isDanger class to our input if there is a problem. Is danger. You can see if we add this isDanger class and we take a look over here again, refresh. You see how we get this like red outline? That indicates that there's a problem. And let's go ahead and add this class dynamically if there was an error. And so what we can do is, as you see down here, Laravel has this class, this error bags class. So this errors object here, it has a method called has, and we can check to see if there's an error related to this field. So what we're going to do here is we will just basically inside of here, just like you saw down there, we'll say errors has email then what we want to do is add is danger. Otherwise we want to add nothing. Okay, so that'll add that. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing. We'll do the same thing for password though. So we'll do if email is danger, but this time it'll be password. Make sure you're naming this password. And then let's do the same thing. Well, that's it. That's all we actually need because there's only 2 forms. Last thing we want to do is we want to have some help text underneath. So we want like a little message underneath here to indicate what the problem is. And so we can do that by just using errors and then grabbing the password error message, which is like errors first. We'll grab that. So what we'll do for that is let's go ahead down here and let's show the email by just doing a class of help and then is danger to make it red. And if we show this, let's go ahead and there was an error. I'm just hard coding this so you can see it. Okay, so then it would look like this. That's what you're gonna get. But we wanna show that only dynamically. So what we'll do for that is we can just do a basic if statement and we'll say if errors has password, then we will show it. Otherwise, we don't need to show it. And what I want to do back later is I'm going to want to come back and make this more dynamic. We have view, so we could definitely make this more dynamic, but I just don't want to waste too much time up front getting all fancy with view. It really isn't that hard, I guess, but yeah. So I want to show you guys kind of the basic here. So here we go. Errors, password, class danger, if there was an error. And then down here, we just want to display the actual errors first. Password. There we go. And let's go ahead and copy this. Put the same thing right here, but this time for email. And everything else should be good. Okay. Perfect. So now let's go through and I think that's good. I think that's going to be pretty good. So there we go. We refresh it. The email field's required. The password field is required. So it is working. If I just refresh this without anything now, it seems to work just fine. If I add some value in here, you can see it carries it over and adds it. So it's giving us the functionality that we want. Okay, so that's good for the login form. The forgot my password works. So now let's go through and let's do the register form. So for the register form, all we really want to do is copy all this. So let's just go ahead and copy it up here. I want to get rid of this, all this actually too. Okay, so we got rid of all that. Let's go through and now let's do the same thing for register. So inside of register, you can see we've got kind of our basic thing already. Let's go through and comment out this. I'm going to paste in what we already have done. Now for this is going to be very similar, so we'll just do register. Instead of this going to our login route, we want it to go to the register route. And then, I believe so. We can double check this by just doing PHP artisan route list. And you can see we want to go to this register form. We want to post to it. So we're going to go do post, perfect. CSRF field's the same. Okay, so we want the email address. What else did we have in here? Let's see what other form information we needed. Oh, we never ran our migrations. Okay, so basically we're gonna, for right now, let's just do email, or name, email, and then password to confirmation. And that's really all we need. We can get rid of the remember me checkbox. We don't need that for right now. Okay, so now let's go through and copy this field, and let's do our name field. So that's all going to be name. Oh, we forgot these two will be name. Okay, so this is going to grab our name, then our email address, then our password. Then we need our password confirmation to match. Laravel's looking for a password. Let's see, password field, and then password underscore confirmation is the other thing it's looking for. So let's go through and add that. Let's just copy this. Okay, so that should be good. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so pretty basic here. Again, no fancy, we're not gonna win any design awards for this, but it gets the job done. This is gonna be good enough for us to get going. In the future, you'd probably want to put a little more work into the registration form just to get a better onboarding flow. But again, this is gonna perform the duty that we're looking for. So that's basically everything we need. Let's just go through and make sure these are all set to required fields. So, under each input, let's just set this required. And we need to probably do this on the other one as well. So all these are going to be required. Okay. Oh, let's fix this up here. In fact, I just get rid of a placeholder. And then down here, what we want to do for, instead of forgot your password, let's just say already have a login, and then this will link to our login form. So down here at the very bottom, we're going to say and then this is just going to go to our login. Just like that. Oh, we need single quotes. There we go. And then let's actually change this login to say register. Okay. I might clean this up by putting password and password confirmation on the same line. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's put these two on the same line. There we go. And then let's actually say, instead of password confirmation, say confirm. Perfect. That just cleans it up a little bit, makes it a little bit easier to follow and read. Okay, so that's basically what we need for that. That should be working good. And then the only other forms really we have are our forgot my password forms. So those ones are going to be under passwords. We've got our email. This is a pretty basic one. We just have a, this is where we just request the email, but then we have the reset, then we need the email, but then we need the new password and confirm the password. So we can do that very similar to what we just did. So once again, just to keep things simple, we're going to copy these. So I'm just going to take all this and copy it over. And let's copy it to this email.blade.php. So this is the one that is simply, if we, just to comment this out for reference right now, let's paste this up here. Now, if you look at this, really the only thing we need to add that's a little different is this session status. So we can go ahead and copy this. Otherwise, everything else is basically the same. We just need to post this to password.email, And everything else is basically the same as what we were doing before. We just need the email. We'll have the old value of email. It's looking for a field called email, and otherwise it's all basically the exact same. Yeah, I don't see anything different. Okay, so now to do that, all we need to do is we're going to say forgot password. And then we're going to submit to password dot, what was it? Password dot email. And as a post request, we're going to ask for their email address. We're going to get it here. This should all be pretty basic. We don't need this field. And we don't need the checkbox. Let's change the value of that. And otherwise, I think we're basically good to go. And then for this bottom part, all I wanted to add here is just have it so that it goes back to login. So let's go now to already have an account and then forgot your password. So now here's what it looks like, get reset link. And you can see it says back to login. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. So that it sends you back to the log. Of course, we need that email to work. So instead of going here, we want it to go to login. And now it'll take you back to the login. So it just allows you to navigate a little better. So when you put in your email here, you're going to get the reset link, and this should then go to the right place. Then the next field that you're going to get is going to be the reset. Oh, we need to add, before we get rid of this, we need to add this little session up here. So if session status, and then we're going to basically output that. And then just change this here, notification, and then just do is success. And then everything else can stay the same. Now for the reset field, once again, it's going to be very similar. We need that status, and then we're going to this time submit to password.request. We have the email field, same thing, password field, and then a confirm password. So it'll be almost the exact same thing as our register. So we can actually copy the register if we wanted. Okay, now the only other thing we really need to do is we're going to want, there's this input field that handles our token. Let's go ahead and just copy this, and we're going to put it up here underneath our CSRF. This is just the hidden field. You don't see it, but it's basically inserting the value of token, which is should be received from the link. So this is after you reset your password, it adds a token that is has a set time frame, and then we verify that token to make sure you're authorized to basically to reset this password. So we need to have that token field, but otherwise everything can be the same. So email, password, confirm, reset. And then the last thing, let's just grab this if session status. Let's put this at the very top. And then we're just going to do notification is success. Okay, so that should basically be it. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to test this one because the only way to access this one is actually by resetting your password. And I don't actually have the rest of the authentication set up, so we can't test it yet. But that should basically be everything. So now with that, we have all of our basic forgot your passwords. We can log in. You can join the community. This link doesn't work. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick. But that should go to register. like that. So we have all of our login forms ready to go. So now what we would want to do is we're actually going to link this up in Laravel, and that's the next video, is actually getting the authentication working now so that all these forms work and we can manage logged in users, set up permissions, and all of that kind of jazz. So before we finish the video, I'm going to get this link working. This is found in our layout file. So in layouts and app.blade.php, if we can find this join our community page, it's right here. There's no href yet for it. So what we want to do is just have this equal to register. And then also this login, let's get one set for that one because it doesn't appear to work. Just like that, pretty easy. Okay, so that's everything. Yep, that's all. Okay, cool. So now that we got all of that done, that's basically going to finish up the HTML and CSS necessary to get this working. So this is our completed project. If you guys have any improvements or suggestions or questions, be sure to leave a comment below and let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video where we start working back inside of Laravel again, actually building out the authentication and permissions. I'll see you then.